Yo, JD here, Toulimus, and as you can see, we're at AOR Silverstone, which I believe is round 7 in this championship, and you're probably wondering why there is no calendar, and the reason why there's no calendar is because it was actually ruled off the calendar because of corner cutting and extending, which is pretty standard for calendar. It's a very easy track to cut, and you can gain a lot of time from cutting. So we've arrived at Silverstone here today. As you can see, that was my first quarter lap run. Bowled a chicane, which doesn't actually look like a bad chicane, but really you should take the shortest route possible, and I pretty much took the longest route possible through that chicane, which is why I lost quite a bit of time, because I was actually quite a bit up on the pole time at that moment in time. And we managed to do a 28.2 in the end, slightly improving, which was pretty disappointing because in practice I was actually doing 28.0 every single session, so that was a kind of a choke, but we still managed to get third on the grid with our championship rival Martin in second place. And this track, I don't really need to say, is one of my favourites. It's one of my top 3 best tracks probably, from winning the last 2 seasons around here. And I felt really confident going into this race because I had a really, I don't know, just the race pace recently from just changing my setup quite a bit, and just how I'm driving, I've definitely changed that quite a bit as well. How I use the fuel and gears and those kind of things. My pace at the moment is really strong. Now, I do feel if I get in the lead and I just make the right decisions on strategy, then I feel I can definitely control and win the race. So you can see here Martin and Brozak going a little bit side by side at the moment, and Brozak's actually going a little bit out wide. So after getting pole, he's down to second place and he's coming under attack already, but we're just going to stay behind him because there's no point really battling on this first lap because we've still got, 26 laps to go. Just trying to use our brain a little bit here, but we need to get past him. I was quite anxious to get past him because I know the pace that Martin's got. And Brozak, he's definitely a very good qualifier, but in the race, sometimes can be a little bit inconsistent, I could say. So I was hoping he could stick with him. I know his pace is very strong. I said both of them go a little bit out wide there. But we need to get past him as soon as possible because I don't really want to be putting Brozak under too much pressure where he makes a mistake and we actually both lose time to Martin. I know if Martin, he tends to like to use fuel pretty early. He likes to go and rich for quite early during the race. So I know that he could probably get away from us if we actually start battling. So we really need to get past him quickly, but there's no opportunity down the end of this straight. But mind that, well, Brozak actually goes in deep, so we're going to slip down the inside. So it's a pretty simple move, no real pressure we put him in there. He just made a simple, just going a little bit too hot on the first lap with heavy fuel. Just gifted us at second place, and now we are going to chase Martin down. He's almost, I would say, almost out of DRS zone, so we're going to stay in rich and we're going to stay on board for the rest of this lap because I really just think this just shows really just our real raw pace, which at the moment for the past 3 races I'd say have been a really good, probably one of the best, or the best I felt on raw pace. I feel as long as I'm just driving well and not really making that many mistakes, I feel I can close anyone down at the moment in this championship. So as you can see visibly at the moment, we are closing in on Marty. You can see even through this corner there, we're just really just attacking the corner, and now we're comfortably within his DRS zone. We shouldn't really need to go enrich for much of the rest of this lap, but the setup I'm using here today is definitely built for straight line speed, because around here I felt very good in practice. So I felt if as long as I could keep up the momentum in corners, then on the straight I could really gain an advantage. And having a more of an understeer setup, more for straight line speed, really does help your tyres as well. Tyre wear around here is definitely a fairly okay big factor, but it's not absolutely huge. And the undercuts that I was experiencing in practice from practicing with other quick drivers in the league, it was around about a second, 1.5 seconds or something like that. So the undercut is not massive, so even if you did make a slightly wrong strategy call, from my experience around here, was not really that much of a big deal. So I just felt as long as I got in the lead, my game plan really was just to get in the lead, and I felt if I got in the lead I would be able to counter him from DRS through the straight line speed. I felt I'd really be able to just control the race and really just keep him behind. As long as I got a good exit off the corners onto the straights, I really did feel just how I use my curves as well, I felt I could really just stay in front pretty comfortably. So we've got onto back of Martin. We managed to pull away from Brozak and the train behind, which I believe they're battling now. And you can see we're going on to lap 4 now. I'm getting quite close to Martin, and we're going to go up to Rich Mixer. I wanted to get into the lead. I wanted to control the race, because that was my game plan before coming into the race. You can see, look how far we are behind, and we're going to go Rich, use the DRS as well. And look at the speed, look at the acceleration we've got down the straight. That's how my setup was built, really purely for straight line speed. And I was using 1-1 wings. Obviously, if you wanted to know that, I was using 1-1 wings in this race, which does work pretty well around here. There's only a few tracks really I feel you can really confidently actually use 1-1 wings. But you can see, going to lap 5, controlling the race. Martin's not going to attempt to pass us, and we practiced with each other a little bit before the race, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, to show our pace to each other, because in previous seasons I never really practiced with my rivals. I used to practice with my other friends who weren't even in the league and stuff as well, or even just by myself, and really just not give too much away on the strategy. But you can see we're actually working together, and because we did speak a little bit before the race, that if we were in this 1-2 situation, that we won't really go battle each other really till the end of the race, because we'd just be slowing each other down. So I tried to trick Martin a little bit there, but you can see he followed me into the pits at the last minute, which is slightly annoying, and because if I would have got the undercut, then that would have been nice. But as I said, the undercut, from my experience in practice, really wasn't that big, so I wasn't really going to be panicking if I was actually undercutted. But you can see we're in optimal fuel, because we did use Rich to close Martin down in those first 2 or 3 laps, because I know he likes to use Rich, and we've actually stayed out ahead of him in the pit stop, amazingly, even though he's right behind us. That's something that doesn't happen to me too often. So I was feeling good for the rest of this race. I just felt if I just kept in front and just controlled the race, don't do anything stupid, then I felt I had it. I felt in a wheel-to-wheel battle, we're on the same tyres, close together. Then I felt through the setup and just me just being driving around here, I really did feel I have the upper hand from previous championships as well. When we go wheel to wheel, normally I've had the upper hand, and I felt good. I felt confident for this race. Didn't do that too much practice, because as I said, I really do feel sometimes you can actually over practice, where you just get to a point where the track is no longer actually interesting for you. But you can see now there's no real battling going on here, and at this point in the race, looking back on this is where I'm making the mistake, really, in all honesty, because I know I had the game plan of being in the lead throughout the race, but looking back on this, you know, we're not in Rich, you know, we're actually still pulling away slightly from Jason, but I was leading the race, and I was actually using Rich Mix just to get a little bit of a boost off corners. And you can see we're in optimal, and fuel goes quite quickly around here if you're going Rich as well. And looking back on this was not a great decision, but I know from me thinking during at this point in the race, I was thinking, well, if I do start to back off and really just try and save fuel, then Jason's going to catch us up. You can see we do have a fairly big gap behind us, and you can see we're going Rich, and that's not a good decision. Looking back on that, because we're in optimal, you know, we've got a big gap behind us as well. We don't need to do this, so we're just getting a boost off the corners. I'm guessing I'm going to go back, but I believe that we've actually got quite a bit of a gap. So I remember actually at this point in the race, I actually thought I could try and break away from his DRS. So there was a few points in this race where I actually felt I was actually pulling away from Martin. I felt if I go on Rich, then I could actually break out of his DRS. But slipstream around here is very, very powerful. Even if you're about 8 tenths behind, you can still get a really good slipstream. If you set a faster slap, so you can see just going to Rich really makes a little bit of that difference. But put down standard again, because we just couldn't break out of that DRS. We had a few moments where we did pull a little bit of a gap just through our pace, but it just around here you can see as Martin goes off a little bit wide, you know, you can't break out of. It's a very slipstream orientated track, if that makes any sense. So, you know, now we're thinking there's no point really going in Rich, because we're actually just going Rich. So again, you can see, and now we'll go back to lean. So, you know, I could have been a bit smarter at this point in the race, because before this I was so hyped for battle, because I really just wanted a battle. I just wanted a real race where it's on the same tyres, you know, same strategy, you know, pitting on the same lap and everything. I really wanted to just prove the racecraft, and really I was just so hyped for a battle, and I think that really just took away me thinking about the long game, which I normally do for most races. I really do think about the last stint, like how it's all going to plan out, and I wasn't really thinking at this point because, you know, Martin is behind me and he's saving fuel in the slipstream. You know, he's probably on +1 fuel or something like that, or even +2 or something like that, and we're in optimal. And you can see now Martin's actually pitted, and we have to go and rich for this lap. So he's actually done the undercut, which I was actually really did get caught out by that, because normally from previous seasons we put on like 19, even 20 or 18 or something like that. So even the lap after this or a lap after that, that's the laps we normally did pit. And you know, but I wasn't really panicking because I was in rich. I had to go full rich for this in lap, which is really going to cost me on fuel. Because see, now we've gone into the pits, and now we'll go save fuel. And I wasn't really that, you know, not that nervous or anxious, because I felt the undercut would only be about a second or second and a half. Because you can see, I made a little bit of mistake in turn 1, but the rest of the lap in full rich was pretty solid. I'm going into the pits, so, and with fresher tyres towards the end of the stint as well. You know, we've got 8 laps left. I thought that would be more than enough time to get in just for our pace advantage and how we're driving around here. But the thing I didn't really think of is Martin. You could see in the previous clips, we were actually trying to let him pass in lean, not even using curves on one lap, and he just wouldn't go past. And unless I actually stopped, then, you know, he wasn't going to come past, and that could have potentially brought us back into the drivers behind. You can see Jason's not even that far behind, the drivers are not that far behind, because they did an undercut as well. You know, that could have really destroyed both of our races. So I was really just thinking I didn't want to go back into the clutches of the other drivers and get in an unnecessary battle. But at the same time, I really should have just probably backed him into the other drivers, or really just, you know, actually just force him to go past me so I could save some fuel. But as you can see, we're in -1 lap of fuel, you know, and we've got 7 laps to go, and we've got no choice but to use Rich, because he's probably got a lot of fuel left from just sitting in our slipstream as we're pulling away from other drivers. So he was benefiting by using my slipstream to get away from the other drivers whilst being able to save fuel at the same time, and being able to choose, you know, it's hard being the lead car because the guy behind can just copy whatever you do, but I can't really copy what he was doing because, you know, I can't read his mind and before going to the pits. So the mistake was really just using too much fuel unnecessarily, and I probably should have pitted on that last lap, really just force him into pitting on where I wanted to pit, because as I said, I felt even if he went for the overcut, you know, I felt I was actually confident enough to actually still keep him behind for our setup and just how we're getting a good exit off the corners. I felt, well, I do feel that we could have kept him behind, we could have controlled the race, in all honesty, as the pace we had was really good around here. And it's just really frustrating because it's just another strategy mistake, not really necessarily just how I'm driving. It's just the choices I'm making, you know, pretty much off the track rather than like actually during the driving itself. So you can see we set the fastest lap, but now we're still -1 lap of fuel, so we can't really, you know, we can't actually go in rich or anything that often, because otherwise we'll go into -2 laps. And if we do that, we might even struggle to finish towards the end of the race. So you can see the gap now is just being stable. It's not really changing, and that's because we just don't have the fuel. We have to go and lean for quite a lot of corners. You can see we're just in complete lean. I believe that whole of that last lap was mostly in lean. And you can see the next lap here now. I think it's this lap. And we pretty much had to be in lean the entire lap. So you can see how much time we're actually going to lose. Because we just can't use that fast fuel mixture, and it's just an annoying thing that I should have just pitted on the same lap he did on that lap, just to really just force him to come in the pits on that lap as well. And even if I had the limited fuel, it would have been pretty easy to stay with him, even if he had the rich mix and got past us, and we could have stayed with him in standard and lean, just due to the slipstream effect round here. And we finished in 2nd place. To only about 1 and a bit seconds behind the end. We started to close him down towards the end on the last couple of laps, so the tyres really kicked in. But yeah, that's Silverstone. It wasn't an amazingly dramatic race or anything. It's more just down to strategy. which is annoying because I just made the wrong strategy call once again. So that's another podium. Got podiums throughout all races this season, which is good. We've got Nürburgring, which is actually this weekend tomorrow. The live stream will be up as usual, so that'll be good. As always, thank you for the support. It's just frustrating, this race. Did kind of affect me quite a bit because I felt so confident going into this, but I guess lessons can be learned for future races because I'm so desperate to win this championship, and I believe I can do it. It's just really just gotta put everything together during one race. So as always, thanks for watching and catch you next time. Cheers.